Best performance of the year for the Dow on this after getting just clubbed on concerns about trade. So what are we really looking at here? Let's get the read from George Say of Annandale Capital. He's the CEO there. We've also got Jackie DeAngelis with us, of course, Fox Business Network. Jackie, a weird reaction, and then you can understand, yeah, if rates come down, that will weather this. But obviously, the Fed is prepared for something.
Well, the Fed changed the game today, Neil. I mean, basically coming out and telling President Trump that he's, got their back and that a rate cut is definitely in the cards. And that's something that investors wanted to hear. They thought it was on the table, but they didn't get the confidence or the language from the Fed that they wanted to hear. Today, that's what they got. So nothing's changed in terms of trade. In fact, the president said come Monday, those 5% tariffs on Mexico will probably go into place. That's what he told us today. But the market feels more confident that there's support for economic growth and that Jerome Powell is going to step up and do the right thing. He made two mistakes. Basically, there was a communication mistake at the end of last year. He corrected that. Correcting the policy mistake, as the market sees it, would be implementing a cut.
The president criticized the rate hikes, as George, and saying that they were a little bit more than was needed. The latest talk is that maybe we could unwind 2 of the 10 rate hikes we've seen since this tightening cycle started with, the former Federal Reserve chief beforehand. Now I'm wondering where this goes, because you could also interpret from that the Fed is worried.
Fed has to cut. The Fed went a bridge too far in December, and they've got to roll it back. The problem is Powell stuck his foot in his mouth so many times that he's going to play the Chinese safe face and spread it out a little bit before he starts cutting again. But the economy needs it. The 10-year's already told you he's going to cut because it's dropped about 80 basis points in a matter of months.
You're talking to a popular trading note that sort of telegraphs how mortgage rates are going to be. So that could be a good underpinning here, right?
Absolutely. There's no alternative to stocks in the public markets.
Yeah.
Bonds are no alternative.
On the trade front, we're getting talk, and you kind of touched on it, that the U.S. and Mexico are looking to hold talks on this very issue, the better than $300 billion worth of Mexican imports that come in, on which we're going to put a 5% tariff. Anyway, they're going to be chaired by the vice president, Jackie, on Wednesday. So how does this all sort out?
Well, a lot of folks, at least market watchers, are saying basically they think the Mexicans have come here to make some sort of a deal, that they are willing and open. They don't necessarily want to see these tariffs go into place, even if the 5% does. Remember, President Trump threatened that it could be 25% by October. So the feeling is that the Mexicans have come to the negotiating table. They are ready, willing, and able, much more so, for example, than China.
All right. We forget that a lot of these increases that we would likely see with the tariffs on Mexico would be immediate. In other words, they literally go from country to table in this case, or grocery store. So we would feel that 5% hike, but we'd start feeling it more if it got to be more of a hike, right?
Absolutely. And we and Texans are very fond of trade with Mexico. And I thought we learned from the Germans in World War II, you don't fight a two-front war at one time. So I'd like to see us get the Mexican distraction off the table as soon as possible and pivot to China.
Do you worry, though, that it also could jeopardize just how we go about future trade relations? We already have a deal with the Mexicans and the Canadians. It was something that Rob Portman, the senator from Ohio, was concerned about when I talked to him earlier. I don't know if we have that, but he's worried. He's worried. Take a look. Nope, I apologize. So one of the things he had raised was this notion that you are jeopardizing a deal you fought hard to get. And now he's worried that this could leave some pretty muddy waters. Do you agree?
Well, the president's fearless, but he's also reckless and ad hoc, and that's a dangerous way to go about your business. And I think that's what Senator Portman is getting at, and I think we need to tighten up the process a little more and be a little more methodical about how we lay out U.S. policy. It's a little bit too reflexive and knee-jerk.
All right. What do you mean, Jack? I was looking at a lot of U.S. companies that were concerned about China moved their operations to Mexico. Guadalajara was a popular location, and the irony now is that they're stuck behind the eight ball again.
It isn't an irony, and the market basically looked at this and said we had made progress with USMCA, and now we're talking about another tariff here that's not related to trade per se, but it's related to the border and it's related to immigration. Let me give you an example, Neil. If the tariffs on Mexico went up to 25% by October, and you still had the 25% tariffs on China in place, for automakers, they're going to suffer as a result of this because they're bringing in the steel and the aluminum. So a car that's made here, for example, could be almost $2,000 higher. A car that's imported from one of those places could be almost $5,000 higher. So there's going to be an impact on the consumer, on American companies. Somebody is going to have to figure out who's going to absorb it or how they're going to pass it along. But again, with Powell stepping up today, the market sort of took a sigh of relief. I'll just add one final point that we've seen the pendulum swing here. So I need to see more than one day of a rally to believe that everybody's comfortable with
Yeah,
this.
we forgot the prior snapshots there. Guys, I want to thank you both very, very much. All right, you have Google, Amazon, Facebook, and Apple all being targeted right now by the United States government in one